Alright, so I made a tool called Student Activity. This was an attempt to meet Tom's request for a tool to help him with monitoring student activity on Linux. So it's a very simple wrapper around last, or I should say the concept is simple at least. It's written in Bash, so it's less simple than it probably could or should be. But anyway, it allows you to do things like filter based on usernames using wildcard. You can use wildcard characters. You can specify numerical sequences, so if you want to show users, U1 through U25, you can do that. And you can also filter based on time periods. And there's a summary view as well that shows you cumulative duration of user sessions, number of times they logged in, etc. So I'm going to actually not buzz through these because I don't have a lot of time, and neither do you, and you can read. And so the one thing I'll say is that some versions of last do not have a built-in since filter, so the last command itself can do date filtering, or at least the newer versions of last can, older versions cannot. And so I implemented a date filtering thing in Bash, which the script will automatically fall back to if last doesn't support date filtering. So you will always have date filtering, but if it has to fall back to Bash, it's going to be super slow. So that's that. The one other thing that I'll explain really quickly is the mapping file. So this is the -m option. And basically what this is a way, so let's say you're an instructor and you have users on the system named P01 through P45 or something like that. You're not going to remember all 45 of those users, like who they actually are in real life. And so if you have a mapping file with their friendly name, their real name, or maybe a D2L user ID or something like that, you can actually tell this tool to slurp in that mapping file and replace their Linux system username with whatever you specified in that mapping file. So the example down here shows that. So my username on my system is Spirotot. Without a mapping file, the user is Spirotot. With a mapping file, it displays my actual name. This is the mapping file up here. So the syntax is really simple. You specify the Linux username followed by a colon and a space, and then the name that you want to replace it with. Known bugs: cumulative duration is not always calculated correctly when using the summary option. This is due to sessions that span multiple days. I think there's a pretty easy fix for this. I just haven't had time to implement it yet. And then additionally, this isn't really a bug, but just a nice feature that would be nice to have, is the summary option. Actually, none of the options actually show you the beginning and end dates for the data you're seeing. That would just be a nice thing to have. So whether you specify a since or until option or not, it would still be nice to know for that, or it would be nice if that report showed you what dates you're actually seeing, or I should say the bounds of the dates. So future direction, most Linux systems only store about at least that I've seen, only store a month's worth of logins, actually 2 months, and they store them in separate WTMP files in var log. And so it'd be nice to have an option. You can specify, currently you can specify a file for this tool to look at, so you can look at last month's logins or this month's logins. But it would be nice to have an option to just parse all of those files. And one caveat there is that it could be pretty slow. Like if you have months and months of login history, it might be a little bit slow. I thought it might be cool. I haven't gotten around to implementing this yet, but it might be cool to add some sort of like chart or graph capability. Just look for trends in when a user likes to log in or not. It would be nice to have a groups feature where instructors can specify which students belong to them, or him or her, and then, so kind of like the mapping file, right? And then all other students that don't belong to that instructor would be filtered out automatically, right, from the get-go. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about there, I guess. This last paragraph is interesting, and it's sort of related, but not closely enough that I'm going to spend time on it in the video. So this is the code. It's written in Bash. It's 321 lines long, and it's again, it's Bash, so it's a little bit messy looking, and it probably could be cleaned up quite a bit. I've tried to include some useful comments, but the basic idea here is that based on the options that the user includes, it builds up a command string for last. Then it runs last and takes the output of last and runs a whole bunch of like filters and transforms on it to massage the output into what the user wants, right? So that's doing things like filtering based on date, right? Getting rid of dates that are outside the bounds of what the user specified. If the user just wants to see users who haven't logged in, the tool will find users who haven't logged in and only display those. If the user wants a summary output, it'll just display the summary output. So again, I'm probably running out of time here, so I'll show you the tool really fast. I'll show you the summary command. Again, so this is my system, 118 logins. The duration is not correct because of that bug where logins span multiple days. If I run this with no arguments, you basically just get the default last output. So I can filter. So if I put a pattern in there, I can filter and get only my username, which is kind of a joke because I'm the only user on this system. But you can see like the wildcard does work if my shell doesn't try to interpret that wildcard for me. Right, and if I run this without the wildcard, I get no users. So that's basically it. I guess the very last thing I'll show you, because I thought this was sort of nifty, you can use these since and until commands with friendly dates, like yesterday. So I've only logged in twice since yesterday, apparently. And that's just because, the reason you can do that is because the date command on Linux is pretty smart, and so is the last command if last supports date filtering. So look at the man pages for the date command and last if you want to learn more about that. So that's all I've got. Hopefully I'm not approaching the time limit yet. If you have any questions or thoughts or concerns, definitely happy to hear what you think about this and ways that it can be improved. Thanks.